You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Hey everyone, it's Tuesday, it's July the 7th. Before I get to the episode with Marc V. Price, really quickly, if you do want to support the podcast, there are show notes in amongst this episode that actually can take you to about 7 different ways you can support the podcast. Everything from the free version of subscribing to my email list. Also, you can subscribe to the podcast via iTunes, Podbean, or in Stitcher. And if you actually do want to use the any type of monetary purchases, please use my Amazon affiliate links, or there's an Amazon wish list specifically for this podcast now. It would just help me continue to do the podcast and, help up the quality a little bit. So without further ado, here is episode 61 with Marc V. Price. Marc is a British filmmaker who in 2008 made the zombie film Colin for £45, and it actually was picked up for distribution, and it, sort of launched his career. And, now he's doing things like The Way of the Monkey's Paw, which is actually in the show notes as well. So if you want to see the making of trailer for Colin, the zombie film he did, there's also the trailer is also all in the show notes. Actually pretty cool. So I suggest you check those out. And without further ado, episode 61 with Marc V. Price. How are you?
I'm not too bad, buddy. How are you doing?
Pretty good, thanks. I think I'm all through the computer glitches. It's like my computer has a zombie virus today.
Or just, AIDS.
Yeah, seriously. Is
it too soon to dive straight into AIDS jokes? Sorry. Have you got video? Do you want to switch video on?
Actually, I don't. My camera's somewhere in my office, in my cluttered office.
Oh, okay, then this is fine. Then I'm glad I didn't shower. Lying in my own filth. It's not entirely true.
Hey, we're in film, so we're supposed to be laying in our own filth, right?
Exactly. It's the creative environment of geniuses. Hard at work.
You should see my office right now. It's like I'm halfway cleaning it, and it's just like boxes and boxes of stuff just like thrown together, and it looks like if anybody walked in here, they thought like a bomb would have went off or something.
It's even scorch marks on the side and body parts.
Well, I do have like movie props in like the corner. So it's like there's weapons in the corner here. There's like all this like random pieces of whatever. I mean, it's just they're like, what the hell was this guy doing in here?
Sweet. So what sort of stuff have you made?
I started way back in 2008, and I started off making just a student film, which is, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Future War. Have you ever seen that movie?
It rings a bell.
It's considered one of the worst movies of all time. It's about this guy. He battles like dinosaurs and cyborgs because it's been on Mystery Science Theater. Anyways, my idea for a student film was to make a sequel to that and try to like play it off like the filmmakers actually made a sequel to it. And and I thought I was like hot, I didn't think anything of it. Well, I started getting like approached from people like, oh, they're making a sequel to this thing, and I was like, guys, it's a joke. I'm sorry, it's a I don't. So we actually made it, and it was just a ha type thing. We actually ended up the guy. I did like most student films. I packed it with friends and stuff.
Yeah.
And one friend ended up having a fight with another friend, and that was like we couldn't finish the movie, and he disappeared for an entire summer. He disappeared, and we finally got him back, and he looked completely different. Like his hair was completely different. He actually was born with missing teeth, so. in the other footage, he has these two. He doesn't have canine teeth.
Right.
Well, when he came back, he had a dental implant, and now he had permanent canine teeth. So now he suddenly had teeth.
You had to get the old black makeup on them and paint them out, or put green on them and then digitally erase them. But this is 2008; it wasn't as easy to do then, right?
Yeah, exactly. And he actually was like, "No, I don't want you." He didn't want to do any of that stuff. So I said, "You know what? I'm going to leave it in as just as a what the fuck is going on here type of thing." And we finished it, and I was like, "I never want to talk about this movie again." And I've done 2 TV pilots, one of which during my pitch I actually brought up Colin because I heard about it and I said, "Hey, have you guys heard about the zombie film in Colin? It was made for £45, and we got to talking about that, and that actually, funny enough, was a co-British production, and after we finished it, there came on a British show called it's exact. It's a British show. It's like it takes place in a airport, and it's like all these. It's like sketches and stuff.
Okay.
I know it's. What is that called?
My television watching has been pretty bad over the last few years, I got to be honest. I've been going since I've been able to just get whatever shows I want. I've been getting them and just smashing through them. So like my Game of Thrones, I tend to watch a whole season of Game of Thrones in about a day and a bit, and the result is I don't know anyone's fucking names in these shows. I'm like, oh, is that the guy with the beard or the guy without the penis? You know, that's literally how I have to have people explain characters' names to me after all these years. It's really bad. I should start reading them. But yeah, so my knowledge of British TV, which I don't watch that much of, to my shame, is pretty bad. Recent times. I was going to say there was a really good one that was like mocking Big Brother, called Dead Set. That was excellent. That was about 2009, I think that came out. Did you guys have Big Brother in the US?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. And it's basically that setup, except everyone in the Big Brother house, this whole zombie thing kicks off out in the outside world, and they sort of don't know anything about it. So it's kind of a really cool concept. And even though like Big Brother's pretty rubbish, Charlie Brooker, who wrote it, was an amazing writer. He just took this concept and made it amazing. If you can get hold of Dead Set, I highly recommend it. It's fantastic. It's one of the best British sort of mini series we've done. I think it's only 2-3 episodes, but it's and they're fast zombies too. But they do kind of do that. You know, people will forgive fast zombies if it's good, and this is great. So it's I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, because Fast Zombies 28 days later was phenomenal, and that's even I was skeptical because I'm a slow moving zombie type of guy, and even that I was like, wow, this was actually pretty well done.
It was kind of interesting, wasn't it? Because I think in 28 days later, they don't say they're zombies. It's a zombie type movie, and the vibe is there, but they're like infected people, so they get killed when they get shot in the chest and all that sort of thing. But I think then Zack Snyder took that and made them fast for Dawn of the Dead. And that's when you started having fast zombies. I think Danny Boyle might even have said, hey, I didn't do zombies. I did infected people in the style of a zombie movie. And but yeah, I think it was Dawn of the Dead that really sort of took that. And it doesn't make sense, but it can be quite intense. And I think it's just depends how well it's handled. I quite liked Dawn of the Dead, the remake. Yeah. What's the consensus on that at the moment? Things are changing, man. I didn't realize until very recently that all the kids are laughing at it like it's the biggest piece of shit ever made. I was like, it's fucking cool. Like Stephen King's It with the clown. I was like, that's fucking wicked. I thought that was great. That was really good television for 1991. Why does everyone hate that so much?
Yeah, it's funny. They actually released another version of Dawn of the Dead. It was another remake. So there's 3 versions of Dawn of the Dead now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's the Romero one. There's the one with Ving Rhames, and I forget who's in the 3rd iteration. But that one was. I remember somebody telling me about it, and I was like, wow, this sounds freaking terrible. And I think that's one of the ones. Maybe I am wrong. Oh, they remade Day of the Dead. That's what it was.
That's right. Yeah, Ving Rhames was in that as well. That fucking stunk. That was fucking terrible. I watched bits of it, and then I actually found myself like just shuttling through it, going, "Oh, like this isn't going anywhere. Let's see if there's anything worth." I get it. Let's just, which I don't often do, and normally just turn them off. But I was like, "Oh, let's just get to the end." And just sort of, and which I've never watched a film before or since like that. I don't know why that one got the special treatment of getting watched at like 3 times speed, but it was fucking terrible.
Yeah, it always seems that every time, now with the advent of crowdfunding, there's always some kind of Night of the Living Dead, like quote unquote tribute, which really just means ripoff.
Yeah,
and it's like every time I keep seeing it, and now there's another one that is coming out where it's an animated version of The Living Dead, and
saw that. Yeah, I think I've spoken to the guy who was involved in that. Someone emailed me about that a while ago. I don't know the guy who made it, but I did see something about that. It's in the public domain, isn't it? Because it's in the public domain, like we could just make it. You make one, I'll make one. Both of us will make Night of the Living Dead and say it's a remake. It's like no one can do anything about it. It's it's out there now. It's public domain territory. I know a guy from Swansea who made a film called Night of the Living Dead. He threw a word at the end of it, and it had very little to do with Night of the Living Dead. And it was like really cheaply made. He threw it together very quickly, and it was just a really smart sort of business move combined with his own desire just to make a movie. He's the first person to say it's not so great, but he kind of just had a really nice experience making the film, and that's it. He got it sold like that because it was a Night of the Living Dead movie. He made an Amityville one as well. He did the same thing. He's kind of got the market for getting a great title and a marketable title and then selling it into distribution regardless of the quality of the film. So he's kind of a genius in some ways.
Excuse me. It's funny because Pittsburgh is where all the zombie films happened. Night of the Living Dead was filmed there. I think Dawn and Day. I actually got to go there 2 years ago because they were having a Night of the Living Dead original revival, and they had a lot of the cast members and everyone except for like George Romero was there. And I got to meet one of the producers who was Russ Sterner, and he and I were talking for about a couple hours. And I actually got to ask him, how did all this happen? And he said, here's what happened. He said, when they originally made the movie, it was called Night of the Flesh Eaters. And he said that's when it was on. There was even a title card that said that, and they said just about when they were done the movie, they decided that's not a really good title. Let's call it something else, and they came up with Night of the Living Dead. Unfortunately, with all of the trademark and for everything else in all the applications, it said Night of the Flesh Eaters. So when the movie Night of the Living Dead came out and was getting popular, some genius drive-in owner said, "Wait a minute, there's no patent for this thing." And suddenly it took off, and people were like, we can show this and not pay anybody because this is considered, in the public domain because there's no patent for it. So basically, like George and Russ and all those guys went, like they were trying to apply for it, and he said then it just got muddled in this constant legal jargon, and he said now, even years later, they're still at war with the U.S. Patent Office over that.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's terrible. But I think Night of the Living Dead is this really, amazing story of, rights and then rights lapsing. And it's a film that George Romero is really famous for. But it's not really, it's not a film that's, he sees anything from. I think that's it. Was it Argento or Fulci who helped with Dawn of the Dead? I should know this off the top of my head. And it was one of those guys that went, "Hey, do you want to make another zombie movie?" And then they just paid him to write Dawn, right? That was kind of how that came about.
I think it was Argento.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things you just to me that's one of those lovely stories. You go, "Oh, look, one filmmaker looked after another filmmaker. Isn't that really sweet? Man, wouldn't it be great if I could do that one day?" Struggling enough to get the budgets for my own movies, but yeah, for that it'd be great just to be able to say, "Hey, you're good. You're a filmmaker. Come and do this." But yeah, I love the Romero films. I mean, I think whenever anyone asks me what my favorite zombie movies are, like I always feel like I should say something like the most obscure one to try and show some sort of knowledge. But I just like, I've no real interest in trying to impress people that way. I'd rather have something to talk about. It's like, well, Dawn of the Dead. I love Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead or Day of the Dead. Between those two, I think I know that Dawn of the Dead is the better film. But there's something about Day of the Dead as well that's just kind of, it's like, is magic too light a word to use to describe a film that's got so much edge to it? But there's something really magic about it to me that watching it, I'm just completely blown away by by so much in it. I love the hammy acting. I love the makeup effects. I love the simplicity of the way it's shot and how clear the action is. I really, really love Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. There's something great about both those movies. But like, we're all on the same page here, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I actually quite like Land of the Dead. People are really hard on that one, but I wasn't so keen on it the first time I saw it. But I think I watched it a second time, and I just found myself enjoying it a lot more. And like, even Diary of the Dead, I didn't hate that much. The last one I really didn't care for at all, if I'm honest. What was it called? The one where they were trying to get like zombies to eat horses or something?
Yeah, I actually like Diary of the Dead. I have a funny story about Land of the Dead. I didn't even watch the last one. I heard it was just probably the weakest of the three, and I said, I'll just. Yeah. I forget what it's called, but yeah, Argento actually made his own cut of Dawn of the Dead too, which is actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, I saw that one. There's less humor in it, right? Because I think that they released a really amazing. Actually, I think it was released in the US. I think I ended up picking it up. Some super duper DVD release where it had lots of different versions. You had the European version, the UK version, the US version. Because there was like a horrific school shooting in the UK at the time Dawn of the Dead was released. So the scene with the two children getting shot was cut because of the, obviously like a lot of sensitivity at the time. And so that's the British version of the film that exists now. The scene with the two kids that Ken Foray sort of shoots that's not in the British version anymore. So yeah, it's very odd sort of like series of cuts. But I think we watched the Argento cut, and it was I think I prefer the humor. I like humor. I mean, I'm not fond of consistent tone. I mean, there's a lot of that in Colin anyway. There's a lot of it in the follow-up film I made as well, Magpie. I just really like humor and drama and like, sort of like really sad scenes. I love them to sort of compound on each other and really sort of like just shred the emotions of the audience. I mean, that's always the aim, at least. Whether I'm successful or not, I'm that's down to the audience to sort of to decide or feel, I guess. But for me, I kind of like that like inconsistent tone, and I think the Argento one was a little bit more consistent. It took out a lot of the humor and sort of focused more on the action. But it was still, it's such a flawless movie that it's still a really good cut of the film to actually sit down and watch when you're in the mood for it.
Yeah, I agree. I actually had that super duper set because I saw the Blu-ray version didn't have that, so I think I bought the DVD version, and it was just like had all this awesome stuff. It even came with like a little booklet too, and I got the last one on Amazon, and I was ecstatic. And I actually, I might just watch that today.
Hey,
just push off work and everything else, and be like, forget it. It's we just had 4th of July over here, which was yesterday. So
yes, happy 4th of July.
Oh, thank you. I live in Philadelphia, so I don't know if that was fireworks or gunfire I heard last night. So it's always something around here. So, oh my God. I actually do want to get talking about Colin because again, like, as I mentioned, like I am just. This is something that I always want to point to as saying, like, see, you can do this, and this is something that, like, it feels like it gives you a little glimmer of hope to other filmmakers because it's like, see, you can with the right attitude, the right idea, and the right execution, you can do more than you think you can do.
Yeah, I mean, this is the nice thing about the way we approached that film is I think I looked at, like, I knew that whoever I cast as to play Colin needed to be someone I could absolutely rely on, who would want to do it and would give me all this time, because that was the one person who was kind of irreplaceable once we get to a certain point in the film. So me and Alistair had worked together on a few things, and he'd always come in and done like little bits here and there. And I think we'd shot what I thought would be my first feature, and I just didn't do a good job of shooting it. It was not because it was rushed. I think it was just because my attention to detail wasn't what it should have been whilst making a first feature. And through doing that, and that failing horribly, only for me, everyone still had a great time. I'm very good friends with everyone involved in that film, and most of them came back to do stuff in Colin. Actually, no, I think everyone involved in that film did something in Colin. But Colin became this thing where I could get people in for a day or two, with the exception of Alistair. And I said to Alistair, he played a dead body in that film that we didn't finish. And I said to him, hey, man, do you want to play... I got the lead role for you in this film I'm going to do. Are you interested? And he went, hey, if I'm not a dead body, I'm happy. And I was like, okay. So I explained it to him, and I wasn't sure he was that interested. And he said he's gonna sort of think about it and you know, just get his head around what it was he'd need to do. Not think about it as in, like, you know, to make the decision. He was really flattered that I'd asked, but just to think whether he could do enough, because it's kind of a big ask to say to someone, you're not going to say anything for this whole movie. You're going to have to trust that I'm doing the right thing with the camera to get your performance across, and you're going to have to kind of do very little. But through that, we'll work on nuances to try and really bring the character to life. And we'll be doing that with cars driving by, beeping at us, and we have to pretend that there's none there. So he was, but I didn't get the idea that he was that interested in doing it, although I knew he'd do something. So I started looking for other guys to play the part, and I put a casting out, which is very out of character for me because I know so many actors. But I thought I'd do a little casting just to see what happened. And this one guy did show up. I forget the guy's name, and he seemed great for it. He had the same sort of look as Alistair, and he said he was so committed. He's amazing. And I was like, right, okay, I've got my guy. This guy can do it. And then he said the one thing that really fucked him up, but is really, I'm really glad he said it, because I would have been really fucked up if this had happened. He said, I'll do it. He said, but of course, if another job comes along, I'm going to do that. And I went, okay, you fucking idiot. Okay, fine, thanks. But Alistair saw that casting call, and he said, hey, what the fuck? Do you not want me to do this anymore? And I went, I'd love you to do it, but I'm not sure you're interested. And he said, fuck, I said I'm up for it. I'm going to think about how to play it. And I think it turned out that I'd misunderstood his saying of I'm going to think about how to play it to I'll think about whether I want to do it. And then we cleared that up, and we started shooting, I think, within a couple of weeks of that. I think it only took me a couple of months to write. And then we just, me and him just went up, we started shooting the movie, and he's just the best choice. He's a really close collaborator, actually, on everything I've done since. He's someone because I've done a lot of stuff for television as well here in the UK, mainly development stuff. So far, nothing's been sort of like made into a full series, but whenever it comes to sort of script work, Alistair and like 3 other people are the ones I send my script to, and I say, right, tell me what I'm doing wrong on this. Tell me what you like about this. Is it clear? Is there a way I can make this sort of better? I think it's a normal process that most writers do. They have a close circle of friends that they show their work to, and they will, rip it apart. And the writer can usually take that sort of criticism from these people. And that's the idea, really. And Alistair's always been one of the first people, one of the best people I sort of send my stuff to, and so we're always working together on a writing from a writing perspective. And so me and him have constantly been working together. So it was great. I think Colin was just the start of that. I mean, we were friends, but we weren't close friends at that point in our lives. And now, it's been over a decade, and he's just like one of my best friends. And, I really love working with him. I'm very comfortable working with him. And I think it goes both ways. We both, know what we like, and he is always throwing ideas at me, and my job is just to say, right, how does this fit in with the story, and then I sort of take the stuff that fits and I put it in, and then he puts the stuff I don't use in his pocket, and then he comes back on another project and says, hey, how about this one this time? And I'm like, yes, that fits perfectly here. So, it's a lovely collaboration. It's like it with all the people I work with. I mean, there's a girl, as Leanne Pammon is the actress who's at the very end of that film, and she says a lovely thing on the making of documentary for Colin, where she said, you start these things that initially work, but then you come away as friends. And that to me is exactly like how I see filming, the amount of talented people around me. And I'm really appreciative that they sort of like, I always try to work with those guys as often as I can. And even in the case of there's a BBC show that we had commissioned recently. So for some reason, they let me write it, they let me direct it, and they let me edit it. So I've been working on that, and I managed to bring in my entire team to work on that. So it was, we came in under budget and everyone got a bonus, which was really nice. So yeah, it's I think this I think when making a low budget film, it's all about building those relationships and finding the people who really go above and beyond, and like those people stay, because there's a talent there that I think it's always worth embracing. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it makes perfect sense.
I waffled then for ages. I feel so bad for you if you got to edit this down. I'm sorry.
No, you know what? I have that effect on people. I tend to ask the most open-ended questions ever, and then people, I love long answers, and I very rarely ever edit anything unless a person comes back and says, "Oh, I said something I shouldn't have. Take that out."
No, I think I'm okay.
Yeah, you're good.
I swear a lot as well. Shit, I should. Oh, yeah, that one was an accident.
You're fine, believe me. All these are explicit. There's the age limit's like up, so anyone who's listening should know by now. This is just an uncensored podcast.
Okay, good. I don't know why. I don't know where it comes from. I don't swear in front of my parents. Well, I do, but I can. It's okay. I get away with it somehow. I don't know why. I can charm my parents. I don't know at what point that happened where I could get away with that sort of shit. But yeah.
There's a friend of mine. His dad is one of the best cursers ever. Because the reason is like when you hear this guy curse, it's different than when anybody else curses. It's because I think it's from the Christmas story. There's a line like, "My father works in swear words like other men work in oils or paintings," and that's what he does. Like he can just curse so eloquently, and you're just like, "Damn it! How can I mimic this?"
Did you ever see an American Movie?
Yeah, I have. Mm-hmm.
What an amazing documentary. The way is it with Marc? Is it Marc Bouchard? Is that his name? The way he just strings a sentence together without seeming to take a breath. It's just so brilliantly articulate, combined with his accent, which is just incredible. It's just, I wish I could write like that guy speaks. American Movie is one of the films I always try to watch before I work on a project, because there's a really nice way to sort of living in oblivion an American movie, because they're films about people passionate who are trying to make a movie, and it's something about it that just, I don't know, for some reason puts my head in a really nice space, and it prepares me for all the horrible, awkward situations that I could find myself creating, and they're just great movies to watch. And yeah, I wish I could write like the way the guy from American Movie speaks. I really could. But it was one of my favorite documentaries as well.
By the way, I have to offer you a congrats for getting that deal with the BBC, by the way.
Oh, cheers. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, you can never tell where these things go. I mean, it's oddly, it's really quite interesting. It's because it's a kids show. It's a zombie show for kids, and I'm not sure why. Why? Because my zombie stuff usually ends up with someone's head getting bashed in, and instead we've done something that's more about social acceptance and difference, and I mean I kept referencing Jim Henson, and that as my parents could watch Jim Henson shows with me when I was a kid, and I can still watch those shows now as an adult and thoroughly enjoy the creativity and the humor and everything. So I was we're aiming for something quite like that. We're not anywhere near that standard of greatness, but I think at least to aim that high gives us a good place to fail. So, we're kind of failing up if we start trying to like mimic Jim Henson stuff. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, it might not necessarily go anywhere, but it's been a lot of fun playing with puppets and makeup effects and using visual effects, which I've really enjoyed. I've started a little visual effects company within our own company, Nowhere Fast, and it's been really nice just to sort of experiment. And one of the things I wanted to do was to try painting out, to have a puppet as a practical effect, but to have it puppeteered, but to paint out the puppeteers, because this is something we want to do on the sequel to Colin, where we have I want some really worn down zombies that we can move in a very specific way, and then we can paint out the puppeteers and people can look at them and say, holy shit, that looks pretty awesome. And really embrace that sort of stuff, almost like, do you remember it's such an odd film to reference, but I really do love it, but like in AI, where the robots would sort of run around and you'd see through them, you see holes in their mouths and on all the details, there'd be big chunks missing, but they'd clearly be people. Sort of that type of feel is something that I'm always looking for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Cool.
And it's amazing too that you're able to bring your whole crew with you. As I've gone on, in filmmaking and doing different stuff like TV pilots too, and this and that. I realized that having the crew, that same core crew. Yeah, you start to not only work together better, but like you can start like almost like reading each other's minds. Like, oh, he would want this or this, you know what I mean? And it's very hard to get that team together. But once you do, it's amazing if you can just keep that whole flow going together.
Yeah, there's a great rapport as well. I mean, there's a really I'm guessing you've read If Chins Could Kill.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So there's a really great thing that Bruce Campbell talks about, but they start coming up with words that mean something to them, like like shemp and all that sort of stuff. But that's a thing that I find happens on the cruise as well. We'll come up with random words to describe a type of shot we're going to get. So we'll say, let's just do a Spielberg up to him watching, the thing off. Well, I don't even need to go that far. We'll say just do a Spielberg on him, and we know that means a tracking shot pushing in on someone who's looking at something in awe off screen. And things like that, and then there's a sort of shorthand that we all pick up that means a lot to us. And if someone's new and they don't know what it is, the environment's kind of comfortable enough for that person to go, what's he talking about? And then someone will fill that person in, or I'll fill that person in. And I mean, when we do the for the BBC thing, I mean, I had because I do a lot of work with the British Film Institute here in the UK, and I work with the education team to create sort of seasonal courses for young filmmakers to come on board and learn sort of low budget filmmaking techniques. And some of the students there I brought along to be runners, but I did sort of say to everyone, I said, look, these kids aren't here to make tea. These kids want to do something kind of interesting. So make your own tea, choose your moments when you're not doing anything, look after yourselves. All the food and stuff is over there. Just make yourselves at home. And we're just going to carry on working. So these kids got to do lots of fun things with, moving the lights or creating the atmosphere, blowing smoke into shots, all that sort of thing. And one of the girls, she's going to be a fantastic filmmaker. She just turned around and said, I don't mind running, but, there's two of us and there's not much to do at the moment other than just doing little bits here and there. Can I script supervise for you? And I was like, oh, yeah, why not? You do that. and now, for as long as I can keep her, she's going to be the script supervisor on everything I do, because she was absolutely amazing. And it was one of the first projects I've had to shoot out of sequence just to save time and make up changes. And it was a lot to get your head around. And I just sort of went, Alex, what do we got? And then she just come up to me and say, right, they said this, 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 and this. And it was just one of the easiest. It was one of the sort of easiest like working relationships I've had with anyone. And this is just someone who just said, hey, when I'm not running, I don't mind doing this extra job. And she just took it on board just for the experience. And, I kind of love that there's that energy in the space where everyone can kind of come in and suggest, or sort of, although Alex promoted herself, there's still that lovely way people can all sort of work together and make suggestions, and there's no boundaries, if that makes any sense. Everyone's working to make a good end product and not necessarily focusing on their roles and saying, oh, I shouldn't speak to that person because I'm in this meager role. Instead they're stepping up and saying, I've got something to contribute, so I'm going to contribute. I'm trying not to waffle, man. I'm doing such a bad job of it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you're doing great. Because I know exactly what you mean. I've been in those roles too, where I started off as either a PA or what have you. My first role ever in film was I was a background actor in a movie, and they saw me and they promoted me to the guy that gets pushed down. Like these two guys are about to rumble, and I'm in between them, so I get pushed down. But like there's an angry Irish guy versus this angry Italian guy, so I'm stuck in the middle, and they would kind of like push me down. It ended up getting cut from the movie, unfortunately, the final cut. But we had a good laugh about it afterwards.
It's like, you look like a guy who's perfect to be pushed to the ground. Get this guy in the front.
They had a little stunt team, and they were like, "Hey, because this production had money behind it, so they actually we were in South Philly, we were in a bar in the middle of August. It was hot as absolute hell. I mean, it was like over 100 degrees in this bar. Like my shirt, when I took it off, it looked like I just got out of a swimming pool. It just was like." Oh my God! So yeah, and that's what they were like. We're gonna put some padding on your hip, so when you fall, you can fall here like this. And I've actually done martial arts, so I knew how to take a fall too. So
right.
So they were like, okay, this even works even better. So now I guess I don't know how that came about, but apparently, I was the guy like this guy. Let's knock him down. But yeah, I wish they had kept that part in the movie though. I saw it and I was like, damn it. Because one of the guys gets killed in it, and I thought, wow, they have to keep this, right? And unfortunately, no, they don't.
It's odd. I think I find myself doing a similar thing where I'll shoot a lot of stuff, and then when it comes to editing, I think that's the kind of the hardest part. I think when you're editing is cutting the stuff that you love but you don't need, and I can be a little bit brutal like that, and I do find myself taking a lot of stuff out that I like, but it doesn't fit in anywhere, and it's always one of those things. I always try to sort of like message the people involved and say, oh, I'm really sorry, we couldn't, you didn't make the cut on this one, but they usually appreciate it. There was one guy actually in Colin. Oh fuck, he was pissed because in an original version of it, he was in it. And then of course we got distribution, and I looked at the film. I'd seen the film with the audiences a few times. I was like, oh, I really need to trim quite a few things out of this, because it was quite a long cut initially. It was 115 minutes, and I thought 110, something like that. I remember thinking, fuck, this we really just need to get to the next point. We don't need to sort of linger as long as we do. Because I didn't feel it was a slow burn movie. I thought I'd made a film with a degree of pace, and I was kind of fine with it. But it turns out when you screen it to a few people, they're like, "Yes, it's a wonderful slow burn movie." That was the positive comments I was getting back from it. I was like, "Slow, what?" So I found myself like really going through it, and a lot of stuff came out. And I think this particular guy, there was some issue with his contract. Just to have permission to have him in it. I think his agent was being particularly difficult, and I sort of said, "Oh, look, it's something we can cut. It's about 30 seconds, 40 seconds of an already long action scene that we could probably get rid of. So it's a shame, but just in case this agent issue doesn't resolve itself, let's just take it out and see what it looks like. And if it sorts itself out, we'll put him back in." But the scene actually worked quite well with the guy out. So when he bought the film, oh god, we bought the film, I got this really pissy email off him. He was fucking livid. Like he thought I'd done it as some sort of like vengeance ploy for getting his agent involved. And I was like, and he was like, he sent me the angriest fucking email. Like, "You motherfucker, you cut me out of this, you son of a bitch. My family gathered around, we all watched your fucking movie to see me, and I was fucking out." It's like, okay. And then at the end of this all, he went, "However, I did have a pleasant time working with you, and if you'd like to employ me again, that would be really awesome." I was like, what? Yeah, and it was quite funny, but at the same time, I really felt for the guy, and it was my fault. I forgot to tell him, like, look, like, you're out. But he did sign, and we got it. He's in the deleted scenes. And I said to him, however, if you go back and re-buy the DVD but get the 2-disc version, you're in that, in the deleted scenes. So this guy bought the single disc version, didn't buy the deleted scene. And if he bought the deleted scenes version, I think he was in that, because he did sign in the end. And I was like, okay, well, to be fair, let's put him in that. And I just neglected to tell him. But I didn't get a reply when I told him to go and buy the film again. Not that to be fair, this is a distribution thing. Not that I make much money from any sale of the DVD. And in fact, whenever anyone asks how do they see the film, where can they buy it, I'm like, dude, just download it. The distributors haven't given us fuck all, and I'm pretty sure they owe us. But yeah, they haven't given us anything. So just download it, whatever. Everyone downloads these days, right? Don't they? I don't know. Who knows?
Well, I have Colin. I have the special edition, the 2 discs, so I could watch it. And right behind me, you can't see it, but it's there.
There we go. That's fine.
I could try to find this guy.
Oh, he's in it. He's a lovely man. I think his name is Andrew. We were Facebook buddies. I don't think we are anymore. He dropped me like a bad habit. But no, he was a top guy. Like I'm not speaking ill of him. I understand how fucking livid he must have been. I didn't know he was going to do. I would have said, but there was a lot going on. I was a bit shit. I forgot to email someone I should have. So I'm the bad guy. It's fine.
Eventually at every point, a filmmaker is going to have a argument with an actor. I've learned that there are certain. I had a friend of mine. Just to tell you a little quick story. A friend of mine. He was making a film, and it was just a small short film. It wasn't meant to be like this is the next big thing. He raised like $3,000 for it, or $4,000 for it on Kickstarter, and. So he had some budget. He had a little room to work. And, well, at the end of it all, he sees this one girl did not sign a release form. So he says to her, "Hey, I noticed you didn't sign a release. Can you sign this, please?" And she says, "I'll tell you what. I'll make a deal. You make me a reel, and I'll sign your release form." And he asked me about it, and I said I would tell her that that's sort of like a blackmail situation. But I said, if you want to make a reel go for it. It's a little dicey situation. So he got.
It's not the worst. It's not the worst situation to me. And I probably would have said that's a deal and been as friendly as possible, and then got the signature. and then just played nice. I think that's what I would have done. But sorry.
Well, you pretty much guessed what was going to happen, because he got it signed. Now this guy got her to sign it. And then he said, "I will make your reel for you within the month." Well, every month she would email him, and he's just a guy who has so much going on. Like, he loves to help out other people. Yeah. His niceness ended up being his worst virtue, because he would promise all these things and never be able to keep all of his promises. So what happened was this girl sent him the nastiest email, and then she started like going on Facebook and running him down. And this is Philadelphia. It gets brutal here. So and the funny thing is, Mark, that's not an isolated situation. I can tell you at least 3 other situations where things have boiled over onto Facebook. Ye old Facebook, the ultimate in dissing people. And and it's just always been in those situations I just mentioned. It's always been the director and an actor, and I've seen it at least 4 times here in Philadelphia. All right, everyone, I'm going to end it there, and next week I will upload part 2 of my conversation with Marc V. Price. And again, everyone, thank you very much for listening, and please subscribe via either iTunes, Podbean, or Stitcher. Again, it's all links in the show notes to how to subscribe. And thanks again, everyone, and I will see you all next week.
Find Dave at davebullis.com. Please make sure to subscribe and share the podcast.